When I woke up, every person I saw had a number hovering above their head. My mother's number was 9450. My father's was 8639. The numbers above our maid and butler were much smaller than my parents'. A few hundred, some only in the tens. I was stunned, so I drove into town to test it. The numbers floating above strangers' heads were mostly single digits. Seeing 1 over 10 was a rare occurrence. Puzzled, I went home and noticed the numbers above my parents' heads had changed. Compared to before I left that morning, each of theirs had gone down by 1. I shuddered. Could this possibly be the number of times I have left to meet them? The thought sent a chill down my spine. I saw my nemesis Alex today too, but the number above his head was only 3. To test my suspicion, the next morning I went to the Shin residence of my own accord. Seeing me, such an unexpected guest, the Shin's parents lit up with surprise, their faces blooming into smiles as they warmly invited me to sit on the sofa. I stared at the number near 2000 hovering over their heads and couldn't help but grow even more puzzled. They could meet Alex's parents so many times, yet with Alex himself they'd only had 3 brief encounters? At that moment, Alex descended the stairs at an unhurried pace, still tying his necktie. And the number above his head had indeed changed to 2. I felt my heart skip a beat. Holding the teacup, I momentarily forgot to speak. "Vivi, what are you doing here?" When he saw me, the surprise in his eyes flashed briefly, and he walked over with a half-smile. I set down my teacup, stood up abruptly, and uncharacteristically grabbed his arm. "Alex, do you have any plans to travel far or emigrate soon?" Alex's eyelashes drooped slightly as he watched my action, his gaze tinged with a hint of puzzlement. "Recently? No." I blinked, and amid the servants' gossiping stares, leaned close to his ear and whispered a suggestion. "Are you free today? I'll take you to the hospital for a checkup." Even though Alex is my archenemy and used to tease me a lot when we were children, I was genuinely worried he might have some sudden illness and drop dead on me. Alex's expression shifted slightly at my words, then he smirked dismissively and tapped the tip of my nose. "I just had a checkup recently, everything's normal. Want me to send you the report?" The 2 elders of the Shin family on the sofa exchanged a glance, faces full of things left unsaid. I knew they must be wondering, 6 months ago I refused to marry into the Shin family, so why was I acting so close to Alex today? I couldn't explain it. I clung to him and wouldn't let go, my gaze drifting from time to time to the conspicuous 2 above his head. If there was no emergency, then what kind of mishap could it be? "Alex, I'm going with you today. Wherever you go, I go." After declaring my bold vow, to the surprise of everyone watching, I linked my arm firmly through Alex's and walked out the door. All the way, I shadowed him without a moment's separation. When we arrived at the office, he held his morning meeting and I stood outside the conference room's transparent glass, my gaze razor-sharp fixed on the crown of his head. The secretary, worried I might be standing too long, even brought me a chair and made me a cup of coffee. Partway through, Alex came out to use the restroom, and I followed right on his heels without leaving him. At last he showed a helpless expression. "I've walked you to the door, that's enough." I shamelessly clutched the sleeve of his coat, arguing earnestly. "This is your private bathroom. I've seen pictures of you in crotchless pants. Following you in isn't asking too much, is it?" Alex laughed helplessly. "You wouldn't go that far playing truth or dare, right? Who did you lose to, Sophia from the Fong family?" Only she could come up with something this mean. I suddenly realized he thought I had lost a dare and therefore had to cling to him. But sticking to him like this didn't seem like a solution either. What if Alex needed to use the toilet? Was I supposed to hover in front of him while he did his business? That image is too much, I couldn't pull it off. Might as well let him go in and see if the number changes when he comes out. Besides, I still have one more chance. In those few seconds I thought a lot. Until Alex's voice, like someone conceding defeat, came to my ear. "If you want to go in, then go in. You're not the shy type, what do I have to be ashamed of?" With that she grabbed me and started pulling me inside. I hurriedly stopped, withdrew my hand, and, with a troubled look, said, "Never mind. Alex snorted, "Can't handle it." But the moment his back disappeared through the door, I panicked again. Not thinking much, I grabbed my phone and started a video call. A few seconds later, the video was answered. The screen showed the bathroom ceiling, with the sound of running water beside it. "Alex, point the camera at your face." Hearing my commanding tone, Alex turned off the tap, dried his hands with a towel, and leisurely lifted the phone. "Vivi, you're only playing for today, right?" In the shot, his brow was slightly furrowed, but there wasn't a hint of reproach on his face. By the time he came out of the bathroom, the number above his head still read 2. I quietly let out a breath. It seemed the decrease in the number had something to do with separated time. Does it only count as the next face after a certain amount of time has passed? I couldn't relax, so I kept following Alex, glancing up at the number above his head almost every half-minute. By the end of the day, my eyelids were twitching. After work, Alex and I walked out of the Shin Group gates together. A Bentley pulled up in front of us, its window rolling down to reveal Sophia's smiling face. "Hee hee, I caught you. Today was the weekly get-together Sophia and I have." I had stood her up by text to keep an eye on Alex. Who knew she'd actually track us down? Alex turned his head to look at me, his tone tinged with displeasure. "Didn't she say she'd have dinner with me tonight? Why is she here?" I froze where I stood, stunned by the number over Sophia's head. Sophia was the closest sister in my circle, my shadow since childhood. How could the number above her be only 15? I immediately opened the car door and got in, then casually yanked Alex in with me. "I'm in a good mood tonight. You two are coming with me to the hot springs and a big dinner." I sat in the middle of the back seat, squeezed against one side, and told the driver the address of a holiday villa. The driver saw that Sophia was baffled but didn't object, and started the car. What the hell, even Sophia's driver and I still have over 500 faces to meet. Has that brat been hiding something from me lately? In the car, Sophia nudged me with her elbow. "Hey, since when did your relationship with Alex the Devil get so good? He's your mortal enemy, didn't you used to avoid him at all costs?" Before I could answer, Alex cut in from beside us. "Thanks to you, Vivi has had times when she couldn't get away from me either." Sophia looked baffled, pointing a finger at her own face. "Me?" I pulled her hand down and gave her a look. "You forgot? Last time we played Truth or Dare, I lost to you. You were the one who told me to stick to Alex." True to my eldest girl's nature, she immediately played along. "Ah, right, I almost forgot. It's all because I've been so busy lately." Hearing that, I narrowed my eyes and probed, "Busy with what?" Sophia sighed, half with wistfulness and half with longing. "Sigh, my dad and my stepmother talked it over and decided to send me abroad for graduate study. They want this embroidered head of mine to learn some proper knowledge and develop the ability to live independently." The moment I heard that, alarm bells started ringing in my head. Go abroad? Why are you only telling me this now for something so important? When are you leaving? Which school? Will you even come back afterward? Sophia didn't expect such a big reaction from me and her answer came out a little stammering. I only found out recently too. My stepmother has even already contacted the school. I have to leave after the new year. But it's only for 1 year, and the school has a summer break. I'll definitely come back. I don't want to stay there forever. I did the mental math. Based on how often Sophia and I meet, by the time she goes abroad, those 15 meetings will pretty much be all we get. After that, I won't see Sophia anymore? A chill ran down my spine. Just as I was about to speak, Alex, who had been resting with his eyes closed beside me, suddenly murmured. Your stepmother is actually quite enthusiastic about you going abroad. Sophia nodded along. Yeah, but my dad also said studying abroad would be good for me. Alex opened his eyes slightly, smiled, and casually remarked, Did your stepmother add another little brother to the family this year? Everyone in the circle knew the Fong family had a new addition. Sophia's biological mother had died young. Her father had remarried a stunningly beautiful woman who, within a year, had given birth to a son. This year marked their 5th year of marriage, and the Fong family had welcomed a second son. The more I thought about it, the more uneasy I felt. The scale and market value of the Fong family's assets ranked among the top in the whole Jiang city. You could tell with your toes how rich her father was. Whenever this stepmother had any ill intent, I couldn't help but shiver. By the time we reached the villa, changed, and soaked in the hot spring together, I solemnly said to her, "Sophia, trust me, don't go abroad this time. Find an excuse to refuse. Even if you want to study overseas, wait until after the new year and choose the country and school yourself. Don't let your stepmother interfere." Sophia blinked her wet eyes. "Why?" I looked at her bewildered face, steeled myself, and told her in detail, every last bit, about my ability to see numbers above people's heads. And what those numbers meant. When Sophia heard it, her complexion drained several shades. She leapt forward and hugged me in terror. "Vivi, you're not doing this on purpose to scare me with a horror story, are you? What kind of imagination do you think I have?" I said helplessly, patting her back. True to form for a coward, Sophia immediately grabbed the phone by the sink and called her dad, alternating between whining, faking illness, and threats, soft and hard tactics combined. Fortunately, her father finally gave in and said they'd talk about going abroad after the new year. The moment Sophia hung up, I clearly saw the number above her head shoot up from 15 all the way to over 2,000. My eyes lit up and I sprang out of the pool with joy. If the number could change, Alex could be saved. I donned my robe and tore across to the men's area. Alex had just finished his soak too, walking while towel drying his damp short hair. I stopped in front of him, bent over and gasping, about to lift my head to look at the number above his head. But somehow my gaze inexplicably lingered for a long time on his bare chest, exposed muscles. Until he scoffed at me, running so fast, chased by a ghost? If it had been before, I would have definitely fired back with some sarcasm. But when I saw the unmoving 2 hovering above his head, I didn't know whether to feel relieved or disappointed, and for a moment I couldn't find the words. What on earth do I have to do to make that number skyrocket? The moment that idea came out, I froze again. The thought that I could only see Alex 2 more times, was that really something that made me so despondent I was desperate to change it? The possibility that something might happen to him made my heart skip a beat, and I hurried forward to get closer to him. "Alex, let's just sleep here tonight. Don't go back, tomorrow's the weekend anyway, you don't have to clock in at Shin's. How about it?" As I racked my brain trying to figure out how to persuade Alex to share a room with me, he reached out and patted my head. "All right, not just tomorrow, I won't have to be CEO of the Shin Group anymore from now on." I froze, thinking I must have misheard. I looked up and saw Alex watching me with a complicated expression. He's tall and handsome, with a pair of beguiling almond eyes that could charm anyone, and he's sharp and capable. Every time he smiled, I felt like he was a fox up to no good. Not to mention, he's great at telling ghost stories. So ever since high school, I've kept my distance from him as much as possible. As it happened, our Qing family and the Shin family had been business partners for decades and were closely involved. Alex and I might as well be bumping into each other every time we looked up or down. When he said those words, I reflexively grabbed his wrist, my tone betraying a trace of nervousness. "What do you mean by that? Tired of being CEO and want to try living a normal person's life?" Alex lowered his head slightly, his gaze fixed on the hand I had clutched, and stayed silent for a long time. It was then that the 2 above his head suddenly jumped to 10. I blinked, making sure I hadn't misseen. Holding hands could increase the meeting count? What kind of logic was that? So I took his other hand and squeezed it tightly. Alex's gaze flickered, and the number above his head actually rose to 15. I went for broke, let go of his hand, and hugged him. A drumbeat-like tremor hit my chest. I closed my eyes and counted silently to 5 before releasing and glancing at the top of his head. 30. Exponential growth. My smile hadn't even fully spread when Alex's fingers gently pinched my chin. "Vivi." His voice held a hint of warning, and his gaze grew even darker. I held my breath, my smile froze at the edge of my lips. Is there something on the top of my head? You've been staring up there all day. Under the Demon King's burning stare, my mouth opened and closed. I wanted to explain but couldn't find the words. So I had to change the subject. You still haven't answered me. What do you mean you no longer have to be the CEO of the Shin Group? Only then did Alex slowly release my chin, his explanation as calm as a breeze. Because I'm not biologically a Shin. Those few words made my head buzz. Alex, the only son the Shin family had raised for 25 years, was a fake heir? Seeing me frozen, Alex narrowed his eyes and smiled, then casually took my hand and led me into the courtyard. In a few days, the true young master of the Shin family will be back. The ancestral return banquet will be held before the new year. I was going to wait until your family received the invitation before telling you. I let him lead me along. When we reached the private room and sat down, Sophia came over as well. The table was piled high with the delicacies I'd ordered, but I had little appetite. The number above Alex's head rose to 30. With more chances to meet, I didn't need to figure out a way to share a room with him tonight. Back in the suite Sophia and I shared, I hugged her first. Seeing the number above her head stop climbing, I leaned in and quickly kissed her cheek. Vivi, what are you doing? Sophia's face flushed, defensive as if facing an enemy. One hand pushed me away while the other covered her face in protest. I'm female. I like men. I ignored her and continued staring at the number hovering above her head, stuck at 2000 plus. Strange, why did it work on Alex but not on Sophia? After returning from the villa, I hugged and kissed my mother. But the number above her head, aside from the normal daily decrease, remained completely unchanged. That evening, my father came home from the office and brought up the matter of the real and fake sons in the Shin family. My mother pressed her hand to her chest and kept sighing. I always said, Mr. and Mrs. Shin look so ordinary, how could they have given birth to someone as handsome as Alex? That's something to say at home only, don't let Jonathan and the others hear it. My father warned, but my mother was still animated. So what does the Shin family mean now? Take their biological son back and give Alex back to his real parents? What does their young master look like? Did Jonathan show you a picture? What kind of family is he from? Is there a big gap between their background and the Shin families? My father put down his bowl and glanced at my mother. What kind of standing does the Shin family have in Jiang City? How many families in the whole country have that kind of wealth? My mother understood, took up her chopsticks and sighed again. Fortunately Alex is already grown. Even relying on himself, his life won't be too bad going forward. I ate quietly beside them, listening with my ears pricked, when my mom suddenly jabbed me with her arm. You're always chattering at the table, but with such big gossip today, why be you gone as dumb as a post? I shrugged dismissively. I've read that whole fake young master trope in novels 800 times. Not exactly fresh. My mom suddenly remembered something, put down her chopsticks, cupped my face, and said with lingering unease. That was close, if you'd almost been married off to Alex. Luckily you stubbornly refused, otherwise that would be awkward now. I frowned as I listened. Mom, even if Alex isn't actually a Shin by blood, he's hardly any worse off himself, right? He's not as money-minded as you. At that, my parents exchanged a look, both of them visibly shocked. My precious daughter, what took over you today? You're actually defending Alex. You forgot how when he was little he told you ghost stories that frightened you into 3 days of nightmares and bedwetting? Thinking of that makes my blood boil. I grind my back teeth and say, I haven't forgotten. To get back at him, I even pretended a bar of soap was chocolate and tricked him into eating it. Not to mention how I once, during recess, tied his shoelaces to the leg of his desk so when he tried to walk they went together. Him and the desk crashed to the floor in a spectacular faceplant. Thinking of this, an evil smile curled at the corner of my mouth. On the day of the homecoming banquet, my parents and I attended together. The venue was full of guests, yet there was no sign of Alex. And finally, standing in the middle of the crowd, I saw the fabled true young master of the Shin family. Of course, a week ago he had officially changed his name to Eric. Eric stood beside Mr. and Mrs. Shen in a bespoke suit, his skin tawny from the sun, his face was ordinary, but his build was remarkably solid. And the dazzling 5998 shining above his head blinded me. Do you know Eric is on the swim team from the neighboring city? Sophia sidled up to me, champagne in hand. I raised an eyebrow in surprise. Could it be that the Shen family ancestors left behind athletic genes? Not really. I heard his adoptive parents are fishermen who sell seafood. He grew up going tide pooling with them, so of course he turned into a swimming ace. I stared at Eric a short distance away and forced a laugh. No wonder he's so dark. As soon as I finished speaking, an image popped into my mind of Alex wearing big rubber boots, a straw hat on his head, a tank top, gloves, bent over on the beach picking up crabs. Vivi, are you cold? Sophia's concerned voice snapped me back. Look at you, you're all covered in goosebumps. I held my breath and focused, driving the picture of Alex grinning foolishly as he held up a bucket full of seafood out of my mind. Sophia, the number on Eric's head is second only to my parents. I grabbed Sophia's arm, my face clouded with concern. Sophia drew in a breath, twice as many as me? I nodded. That's it then. Even if you two don't marry, you're probably destined for a messy entanglement. Seeing me silent, Sophia tried to soothe me. Oh, don't worry. This Eric, his eyes are a bit small, his mouth a bit big, but at least he's healthy, seems honest, and sits on a fortune. Dating him wouldn't be a bad deal, right? No sooner had she finished than Alex's melodious, slightly accusing voice came from behind. What entanglement? What are you two talking about? I turned at the sound and saw Alex in a dark gray suit, his hair neatly groomed, his features a few degrees sharper than usual. Sharper still was the number above his head, 1. I almost laughed in anger. Does this thing drop if you don't top it up for a few days? If Alex didn't know anything about my powers, I would really suspect he was teasing me on purpose. Everyone else's numbers could change, but only his could vary arbitrarily for no reason. And I still can't find a pattern. I really can't fathom it. Since we parted at the hot spring resort, it had been only 2 weeks, so how did the number of times Alex and I could see each other suddenly drop from 30 to 1? If I can't see the number, doesn't that mean after the family banquet ends, we might never see each other again? Sophia was about to say something when I stepped forward, grabbed Alex's hand, and pulled him outside. Come with me, I have something to ask you. I dragged Alex along as we walked out, drawing quite a few sideways glances. But Alex followed me obediently, he didn't resist, nor did he stop. When we reached the rooftop of the hotel, I let go of his hand, turned around, glanced at the one on his head, then fixed my eyes on his face. Alex, tell me, what are your plans after this? To leave the Shen family, leave Jiangqing, go back to my biological parents, and never associate with us, these fox and dog friends, again? Alex's tie was whipped up by the wind, and a rakish, bitter smile tugged at the corner of his mouth as he gave a slight nod. That's my plan. With a soft clack, I felt something unhook inside me, slipping in a direction from which there was no return. The wind blew through the gap at my shoulders and I shivered. Seeing this, Alex took off his coat and came toward me. Just as he draped it over me and was about to step back, I grabbed him again. What's wrong? Alex's eyes showed a rare, puzzled look. I seized the moment, quick as lightning, cupped his face and kissed him hard. Wind whispered past our ears, and my heart thundered. Just like that day at the hot springs resort. I don't know how long had passed before an arm slid around my waist. I pulled back at once and glanced up at the top of his head, 50. Seeing I'd found the pattern again, excitement flooded my brain, and without thinking I leaned in to kiss Alex once more. But this time he gently held my jaw and stopped me from succeeding. His other hand tightened at my waist, forcing me to press flush against him. Warmth flowed from his body, and the steady exhalations of his breath warmed the top of my head. I've really outdone myself, I actually forced a kiss on Alex. Vivi, what was that? His voice was huskier than before as he reached out and brushed his fingertip against my lips. I went all in, wrapping my arms around him and saying, "Alex, marry into my family. I promise you won't have to suffer, you'll still eat well and live in luxury like before, respectable and rich. You won't need to go to the beach to catch crabs, and you won't be roasted by wind and sun." When he heard me, Alex's gaze cleared, then his eyes curved into a smile, as if he'd been amused. "Are you proposing to me?" "Yes." "Just tell me, will you say yes or no?" He stared at me, his gaze so tender it seemed to drip. "You're so bossy, Vivi." Hearing that, I felt elated. Because the number above Alex's head was skyrocketing. In a matter of seconds it had climbed from the dozens to the hundreds. Just as I was feeling triumphant, Alex spoke again, deliberately slow. "But I only marry someone who likes me." "Do you like me? Haven't you been avoiding me like the plague since high school? Afraid of me, disgusted with me? And why, 6 months ago, did you refuse to marry me? Why do you keep staring at the top of my head like that?" I hastily withdrew the gaze frozen on the crown of his head. Faced with Alex's 4 rapid-fire questions, my mind turned to mush. I didn't even know which one to answer first. Luckily, a few bodyguards who had suddenly rushed up to the rooftop saved the scene. Seeing us holding each other, the bodyguards cleared their throats a few times, then turned to the walkie-talkie and said, "Found the young lady, she's on the top floor. Cuddling with young Master Alex." Halfway through the banquet, guests streamed outside to join the music party. Tom, the Fong family's recently turned 5-second young master, saw us and, from his mother's arms, pointed at Alex and shouted, sounding nasal and insistent, "Mom, look, an imposter." Sophia's stepmother quickly covered her son's mouth and gave us an amused smile. "Children don't understand, Mr. Alex, please don't take it to heart." Alex's face was as usual, saying nothing. I looked at Tom's perfectly clipped crew cut and rolled my eyes at his mother. Children don't know any better, it's because the adults didn't teach them right. Sophia's stepmother's expression changed. She probably didn't expect me not to smooth things over or show face, and her voice grew colder. "Vivi, what do you mean? Are you blaming me?" "Yeah, can't Mrs. Fong tell?" I never had a good impression of Sophia's stepmother and her spoiled son. Every time I went to the Fong house, Tom would either deliberately toss toys at me or grab my skirt with hands that had just touched fruit. If it weren't for Sophia, I would have lost my temper long ago. Sophia's stepmother put on a different expression, her eyes curved into a conciliatory smile, but her words were harsh. "Kids always blurt out the truth, he's a fake from the start, so it's not wrong. I know there are plenty of snobs in our circle who delight in Alex's misfortunes. But anyone who dares bully me to my face is simply thick-headed." Alex grabbed me as I was about to step forward, then sauntered to stand in front of the mother and son. He bent slightly and squinted at Tom with a smile. "Little kid who likes to tell the truth, go home and have your mom give you a new haircut, this watermelon head is really ugly, everyone will laugh at you." At that, Tom's lower lip trembled and he burst into wailing tears. I laughed out loud, and saw Sophia's stepmother staring in disbelief, backing away 2 steps while holding her son. "You're a grown man arguing with a child?" As expected from someone from a petty household, your mind is just as petty. I stepped forward, expression unchanging, and drove the point home. "What, you only like speaking the truth but can't stand hearing it?" After saying that, I snorted lightly, looped my arm through Alex's, and walked the other way. I even picked a small cake off the long table and placed it in his palm. "Alex, don't take that little bastard's words to heart. I've got your back from now on. As a son-in-law of the Ching family, you won't lose out." Alex glanced at the little cake in his hand, then looked at me, a gentle curve lifting the corner of his mouth. "I haven't said yes yet." I stared at the number above his head that had already ballooned past 5,000 and said triumphantly, "It's only a matter of time." I happily ate the cake while Alex kept looking down at me, even reaching out to wipe the cream from the corner of my mouth with a wholly natural motion. Sophia, not far away, watched the scene with her mouth forming a perfect O. She slipped away from the socializing and pulled me aside. Vivi, I saw it the day at the hot springs, you've got something going on with Alex the Demon King. I didn't deny it, imitating Alex's calm, nonchalant manner I said, that's right, we're getting married. Sophia was shocked, what on earth have I missed? I sighed. I feel a little sorry for him. After 20-some years of good times, suddenly becoming an ordinary person, the house isn't even his anymore, and he has to leave Jiangqing, abandon everything he built. I just couldn't bear it. He's pitiful? Sophia, as if she'd heard a joke, raised the decibels in my ear. Do you know that all of the Shin family's overseas businesses will be handed over to Alex to manage entirely? The assets under his name will only increase, never decrease. Other than the fact that he's not a biological son of the Shins, how on earth can the word pitiful apply to his life? This time I was the one stunned. How do you know? I overheard the Shins talking while you weren't here. I looked at Alex standing amid the crowd in his suit, chatting and laughing with the guests. Of course, the old fox hasn't changed his colors. Holding half of the Shin group in his hands, yet pretending he's willing to give up everything to win my sympathy? No. Even if Alex was deliberately testing me, the meeting count hovering above his head can't be faked. So before I kissed him, he truly had no intention of having anything to do with me. At that moment, Alex and I made eye contact in midair. The number of times we'd met above his head had nearly risen to match my parents', and it was still trending upward. That stubborn Sundara, clearly I'd won him over with a single kiss, yet he still acted like he hadn't agreed. What a showman. After the clan's reunion banquet, the news that Alex would continue to serve concurrently as the group's overseas business director had already spread. Everyone said the Shin parents probably couldn't bear to lose such an outstanding adopted son. After all, no one expected their biological son Eric, who's devoted to a career in sports and is currently preparing for the provincial swimming team trials, to have any interest in being a young master CEO. And amid Alex's busy schedule, his contact with me only grew more frequent. He'd send gifts for no particular reason and, whenever he had free time, would always ask me out to do things. I kept my usual manner, I replied politely to his messages, accepted his gifts with courtesy, answered his calls with civility, but I never once agreed to a date. A month passed, and finally he couldn't hold it in any longer. On the phone, after the day's customary inquiries and small talk, Alex's voice suddenly dropped. Vivi, have you forgotten something? Of course I knew what he meant. No, I haven't, isn't it the proposal I made to you a month ago? There was a long silence on the other end of the line, as if he hadn't expected me to admit it so quickly. Before he could speak, I struck first, cheerfully, but didn't someone already say no? Besides, Alex, the well-known name in Jiangqing, now neither short of money nor fame, do you really need to become my bargain basement husband by marrying in? Alex gave a soft laugh, but I heard bitterness grinding through it. Oh, so your proposal that day wasn't sincere after all. Fine by me. I heard that something was off, knitted my brows, and asked, what's good? Alex returned to that sonorous, languid tone. The reason I called today is to say goodbye. I'm leaving next week, and unless it's absolutely necessary, I won't be coming back. My eyes narrowed. Playing hard to get, huh? This sulky peacock, so proudly tsundere, to be honest, saying you've liked me for a long time shouldn't be that hard, right? If I hadn't rifled through the basement storeroom and taken out the 18th birthday gift Alex gave me, finding that beneath the music box he once gave me there was a heart-shaped diamond ring hidden, I'd still be in the dark. Before that, for 3 straight years I'd thrown his gifts, wrapping and box included, down into the basement. The man sure knew how to hide things. But on second thought, if the distant me back then had known he harbored ill intentions toward my inexperienced self, she probably would have peed her pants for 3 days. You couldn't be sure she wouldn't have thought he was playing some trick on her. And in the year I turned 23, discovering that his feelings hadn't expired felt like the most perfectly timed thing. I wanted to see how much longer he could keep up the act. Oh, leaving so soon? How about we go out tomorrow and I'll give you a little send-off? The Alex who really wanted to leave would not meet more than 3 times. but Alex, who was already mine, could fool me, not my superpower. Alex and I agreed to meet at the golf course. He wore light-colored casual clothes and sunglasses, standing in the winter sun. He didn't look like a dazzling male peacock, he resembled a pine standing tall on a cliff. On top of that pine's head, the digits 9,999 were strikingly conspicuous. Even more conspicuous was the plus sign after the numbers. That means 9,999 isn't the limit on how many times we'll meet in the future, it's just the upper limit the counter can display. Fair enough, even at the intimate rate of seeing each other once a day, I'm safe for at least 27 years. I'm in a bright mood, on a roll, making hole-in-ones one after another. Alex leans both hands on his cue and looks at me. My high-speed train leaves at 11 the day after tomorrow morning. I hold the follow-through of my stroke, tilt my head and smile at him crookedly. I know, you said it 3 times already, I'll see you off. After I say it, my smile freezes and my mouth twitches as I confirm with him, you're going to Los Angeles by high-speed train? Not going to Los Angeles. Plans changed. I'm going to resign from the Shin family, give up all my property, go back home to be a fisherman, pick crabs, and take over my biological parents' seafood business. I couldn't help but raise a hand and tap my temple. Are you all right up there? Alex didn't mind my sarcasm. He shrugged and, unfazed, said, I know none of you will understand, but this is the life I was meant to live. Now it's time to set everything back on track. Vivi, the two of us really should never have crossed paths from the very start. Saying harsh things is one thing, but the number above his head showed no sign of decreasing. I stuck a hand on my hip, pretending to be full of feeling. Life is truly unpredictable. You're right, you shouldn't have crossed paths with me. The one who should have crossed paths with this young miss is that Eric. Alex visibly grew wary. I curled my lips and pressed my advantage. After you leave, I'll marry Eric. Get back on track, who wouldn't? Sensing I was sulking at him, Alex scowled and closed in on me. You won't marry me, but you'd marry him? I took off my sunglasses and blinked at him innocently. I'd be willing to marry you, but you won't agree, so I can't exactly force you, can I? Alex laughed in exasperation, tossed his sunglasses aside, hands on his hips. Are you serious? That's pity, not genuine feeling. If you truly liked me, why did you act like you didn't see the ring I gave you back then? You had no reaction at all. And why, 6 months ago, did you refuse to agree to marry me? I snorted and laughed, took off my gloves and handed them to the nearby caddy, then walked over and patted his solid chest. Alex, look, what is this? On the left middle finger, a heart-shaped diamond ring glittered in the sun. 5 years sealed away, not a speck of its shine had been worn down, still as brilliant as ever. Alex looked a little stunned, a little incredulous. I took the chance to wrap my arms around him, stood on tiptoe and whispered in his ear, when you pursue a girl, could you be any more direct? Didn't you grow a mouth? Alex came back to himself, exhaled heavily, and hugged my waist. His voice trembled a little. You do have a mouth on you, didn't I scare you into crying? I laughed again. He pulled me close and kept asking, Vivi, you're willing to marry me, right? Is it true? I reached up and punched him lightly, complaining, Alex, that was close, we nearly missed our chance. I thought that if it weren't for that sudden special ability, with my thick-headedness, I probably wouldn't have realized how important Alex was to me until after he was really gone. The thought that he had almost really given up on me, of course I had to punish him a little. Before my triumphant smile could fully spread, Alex had already leaned down and kissed me, kissing me so hard I fell backward. After the new year, Sophia suddenly put away her playful side. She actually planned to go abroad to pursue a master's in business. She said she didn't know why, but her father's and stepmother's arguments had become more frequent. The quarrel seemed to be about her stepmother having inadvertently offended the Shin family. Some of the Fong family's projects have therefore frequently run into obstacles and have been hard to push forward. And Dad, who has always spoiled his younger son, has lately been constantly saying the words, the child has been spoiled. He also keeps calling Sophia into his study for long, heart-to-heart talks, pinning high hopes on her. Sis, do you know? I suddenly feel like my former self was so immature. At the airport, Sophia looked ahead with a grave expression and confided her lofty ambitions to me. When I come back, I will definitely make the Fong family's business bigger and stronger. I watched the number above her head steady at 2000 plus, and nodded earnestly in agreement. Everyone else only cares whether you fly high, only a true sister worries whether you'll fall and die. Sophia. In the 3rd year of her marriage to Alex, good news arrived for the Shin family. Eric, as a national-level swimmer, had won a world-class championship, bringing honor to the country. The Shin family, straddling both business and sports, suddenly became the hottest family in high society. Later, I gradually stopped seeing the numbers above other people's heads. But on one gloriously intense night, half asleep and drowsy, I heard Alex whisper against my ear. Vivi, you know, in the most desperate year I even went to a metaphysical master, asked him to tell me whether you and I were fated. The master said if we truly had a karmic bond, fate would guide us. I didn't expect that the next day you would insist on clinging to me. Thank you for inexplicably coming close to me, for reigniting my hope. I woke from a dream, opened my drowsy eyes, and couldn't help but marvel at how strange people can be. Connections can end in an instant, and they can begin in an instant too. And fate, at last, allowed me to grasp the one person I most must not have missed.